Welcome to the stories from the world of New Dawn. Over the coming weeks, we will delve into the great deeds and evil acts committed by nobility and common sellswords in both nautical adventure and desperate bids for survival in a hostile world. Join us in a realm recovering from a time of darkness and strife known as the Long Night. Once great empires were reduced to feudal kingdoms and vast tracts of deadly territory. These are the tales of the brave and daring of this world. These are stories of shadow and steel. Triad. Part 2 of the first short story of the Shadow and Steel series.
High Marshal Booth slapped a folded leather belt against his knee to take the lead from the Countess. Before he spoke, he reviewed Gale from head to toe with a most scrutinous eye. She felt his eyes crawl over every inch of her and could not help but shake off the chill they brought her.
You're a tough chin. Your stiff upper lip, the heart and truth of any triad to be sure. But you're no quick wit.
Booth rubbed his chin as he gauged Gale for any reaction, no matter how minute, to his barb. When she offered him silence, he pressed on.
Suppose our mission for you is to kill a bog troll. How just two of you do it?
Booth absorbed her sudden eye contact and hot glare with a satisfied smile. Gale held her chin high as she effected a calm and collectively short answer out for the High Marshal.
We would use our combined and capable knowledge to hunt the creature. Hunter McGale would rouse it and lead it into a kill zone. I would incapacitate it at range. Hunter McGale would then render the creature into portable sections, after which we would burn each section while standing vigil over the rest.
A 20-beast dire herd.
Booth pressed with more vehemence in his tone. Gale took a moment to recall what she believed to be a course they would take.
We would find them and take them one at a time over a week until none remained while maintaining silence and distance.
A red cap.
Booth interrupted. This time Gale had to resort to bold assumptions. No one had seen a red cap in known memory, they only knew of the Unsully from tales recovered from the old world.
We would watch the creature for a time to gain an understanding of its nature and...
You're both dead.
Booth roared. He took a moment to compose himself as he straightened his shirt before continuing his rebuke in a calmer tone.
A lack of expertise and qualification would have you both dead in half a fortnight. What good would sending you be to us then?
Are we hunting such a thing?
Gale's voice was ice as she withstood her strange dressing down by the villainous Marshal. The orb tapped the Countess's chair again. Booth steepled his fingers at his chin in sharp consideration while the noble took the lead from him.
What we will send you to, all three of you, is something far more dangerous.
Gale and the Countess locked eyes for a moment before the lady continued.
The Lady of Willow Manor is a well-known legend in Old Path. People here leave gifts along the road that passes by her estate to curry favor and ward off her ill will. So you know why.
Gale hunted her memories of the area and the nature of such things furiously until she came to an unwelcome solution, given the nature of the meeting. The thought struck her like a hammer. A growing disbelief rose in her breast as she offered timid answer.
She, kindly folk, one who no longer walks among us. Those who reside beyond the Great Barrier.
The leaders exchanged glanced before Countess Porth nodded.
She, or something else claiming to be her, has begun a campaign of terror in the county. I task you to stop her from doing more harm to a people or die trying. You will take this task and not report back to this council until you have succeeded. Do you understand?
Later in the afternoon.
Dougal marched alongside Gale as they approached the half-ruined keep that was Ellen's vocational gymnasium.
Bloody Sith? I mean, sure, not problem, eh? I mean, if then we fail, we die, or if we're unlucky, far worse. If, and I do mean if, we manage to best her, we'd be damned, and so to any progeny we may have.
Gale offered a sly glance at her partner.
You planning on living long enough to have kids, Dougie?
The large brute stammered a bit, crossed his arms, and pouted.
Never know. Could be a Mrs. McGale in mine future. Besides, it's the cursing that I take issue with.
Gale grew weary of his worry.
Calm yourself, man, or I'll start thinking you wear that skirt like a lady.
The words hit his pride, and the pride he had in his kilt. It also shut him up long enough for her to approach one of the many students going about their business in the yards around the strange place of higher education.
You miss, I have been told that a Mr. Oleanen resides on premises. Whereabouts can we find him?
Gale started the conversation. The response was strange. The young lady blushed and giggled a bit. She had to wave away her lustful vapors before pointing the pair to a doorwoman in black attire, much like a nun of the faith but without all the dowry those kind carried. The hunters left the student to her fit of giggles as they engaged the matron, Gale maintaining the lead.
Ma'am, we were directed your way to find a man. A Mr. Oleanen?
The older woman offered only a disapproving scowl for a moment as she reviewed both vistas. She finally rolled her eyes, muttered something under her breath to herself, and waved for them to follow her.
The miscreant is in the art gallery today. Follow, if you must. But I warn you to contain yourselves. I will not tolerate any prattle from another of Martin's would-be mistresses. Not a word in my presence about the man.
Offended at the assumption, Gale tried to counter with words but was shushed with a
not a word
from the matron. The three travelled into the ruined section of the keep. It wasn't much more than a crumbling pair of walls and piles of rubble from outside. Striding through the entrance, for there was no longer a door to block it, took them within to an entirely different experience. The interior of the ruined wing of the keep was fortified and well maintained. As a sort of obstacle course, over a dozen students ran, leaped, and swung along the circuitous course they travelled through on their way to the rest of the keep. The whole of the place was a 3-story paradise for a cat, but scaled for people. Precarious platforms hung from interior walls, separated by lengthy gaps, connected with tight ropes, or covered in trials that would make a challenge for the most skilled of gymnasts. The students flew about them with well-practiced ease, gaining their physical education through the mastery of daring leaps, difficult climbs, and dangerous races between the platforms above. The whole place was a marvel of a physical challenge. Dougal gave an approving whistle as he went. Gale knew that this was definitely his kind of fun, but they had business to attend to. The noise earned his a harsh glare from the matron as she explained.
When the troublemaker isn't here maintaining his art, he is accosting his fellow students with the threat of torrid romances and the like.
Her bitter tone denoted her avarice for such things as well as her disdain for their future companion. They entered the keep proper and walked down the busy central hallway between several rooms of education. Students moved about the place like bees on assignment, each with armfuls of books and scrolls as they went about the business of learning. The matron stopped and turned on her heel after glancing into the room of their destination. She demeanor having suddenly changed from stern to flabbergasted with the single glance she spared into the room.
I will have you know that I do not condone the practices that take place in this room. What matron Matilda thinks she is doing is beyond my reason. Be about your business quickly and be gone.
And with that she covered her mouth with a shaking hand and left Gale and Duggan alone with the room. Duggan was first to stride in and was immediately out again and blocking Gale's entry and vision with his bulk.
Nope. Nah. I dunna think you should be going in there, Gale.
He said in as flat a tone as possible.
You spend a half second with a foot in the door and now you're keeping it all to yourself. I'm going in, Dougie.
Duggan shook his head as he locked eyes with her. She could tell he was, if not afraid, maybe embarrassed. She'd never seen him be either, so she was lost to tell which it was. Ever a woman of action, she pinched Duggan in his sensitive ribs and slid by him as he recoiled from her playful attack. She stopped in cold shock at what she viewed.
Well, hello there, strangers.
The man who must have been the miscreant Martin Oleanen. He was surrounded by a half-dozen ladies at aisles who busied themselves with quiet giggling and painting. Matron Matilda basked in Martin's stark naked glory from across the room at her desk. He was a natural wonder of attractiveness. His presence would have given Gale sinful thoughts while clothed, but naked as he was laid across a dining table with such a casual demeanor made her blush. She immediately decided that she hated him, for such feelings had always brought trouble and torment to her through her life. Gale rallied with a cough and an uncomfortable shuffle.
Mr. Martin Oleanen, I presume?
She managed, though her voice cracked a bit in the effort. Martin winked and smiled in the most lascivious way.
You may, but what shall I name your beauty?
His question caused his painting ladies to audibly swoon a moment. The heaving of chests and fluttering of hands before faces told Gale everything she needed to know about the man. He knew he was beautiful. He knew he could use that beauty to affect the girls, and probably a fair few boys around him. Gale took a deep breath, came to attention, and finally gained some propriety.
By order of the High Council of Chatterick, I come to you for mandatory recruitment into a triad. By national order and with proper mandate, I call you to service, Mr. Oleanen.
Martin slowly roused from the table and sauntered over to Gale, making sure she had ample opportunity to absorb his full glory as he came hither to her call. He got close, very close to her, and approached like a hungry predator.
Wish to whisk me away from this place?
He asked ever so gently, with a whisper meant only for her. Gale took a selfish look at him from head to toe as she recalled all of her previous suitors and would-be lovers. She masked her revulsion at each memory behind a coy smile as her eyes met his after their long transit.
I can think of a few ways to put you to use. I see no reason to wait.
Martin stared deep into her eyes. He used every little trick to inspire her to unheeded passions. He focused only on her as his hand came up to lift her chin with ever so slight a caress as it could have been silk. He could have kissed her then. He could have started something she knew he would regret. So she let him down easy. She thrust her knee up into his crotch with all the force she could muster. To his credit, he didn't crumple like a sack of leeks. As far as Gale could tell, she had stunned him so thoroughly that he remained half crooked and frozen in a slow pained gasp for the air she had just forced from him.